this lesson, we are going to look at the second image that we're going to edit in lesson 2 in the O'Reilly book. So in your O'Reilly Classroom in a Book, we are going to look at the basic photo corrections, and we're going down to removing distractions. So this is where we're going to start. I encourage you to read this section above here. That is about real world photo restoration. Okay, there's not really a lesson, but I encourage you to read all that information. So we are going to go down here again to removing distraction. The book is going to show you a before, which is the one on the right, and then the after. Okay, now you do not have accessibility to the ending one. So we will be opening this first one, and you can see what it's going to look like over here in the book. So now I'm going to remove this, and we're just going to start from the beginning. First thing that you need to do is access your lesson 2 files. Yours will look something like this. I like to zoom in a little bit so I can see them a rather larger. And I'm going to go in, and we are going to do this remove start JPEG. And I'm going to click on this. And that is the one that I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on it. It should open it up in Photoshop. I want you to note a couple things that down here in the lower left hand corner, mine opened up at 66.67%. We do need to save this. So I'm going to go up here to File, and I'm going to hit Save As. Please make sure that you are saving it in the correct area. Okay, you guys are the student one, so I'm saving it inside of that. And inside of the book, it tells us to save this as working. So we're going to call this O2_remove, and I'm just going to replace the start with working. Working ones are typically, not always, but typically in the book what you will be saving them as. So always pay close attention to what they ask you to save it as. We don't want to save it as a copy, but we don't want to save it as a JPEG. We need to see the Photoshop document layers, so we are going to format this as Photoshop. So it does add a PSD, meaning Photoshop document, and we are going to go ahead and hit save. First thing that we're going to do is we are going to remove our wires that are in this image. You can see here there's wires, and there's actually an electrical pole here. And then we are going to remove people. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find our remove tool. Over here at the left, by default, your spot healing brush is probably on. So what we need to do is we need to hold down our left mouse button, and we need to access the remove tool. Notice that the shortcut to get over to this tool is J. So if you are looking at it and you're like, I don't know where it's at, if you know those remove tools are J, you can simply click on that. It'll take you to that tool, hold the left mouse button down, and then make sure you go to the remove tool. Next thing I want to point out is up here, this is our options bar for the remove tool. This is going to allow us to add or subtract from selections. There's nothing selected, so obviously we cannot subtract. This is going to be our brush size. Yours might be at 19. I have already changed mine at one point in time. This has to do with a tablet. We're not going to worry about that. By default, it is going to draw in magenta. If you don't like that color, you could pick a different color. Find distractions is what we will be using. We'll look at that here momentarily. Over here under auto, which is typically what I keep it on, we can change this to use generative AI or generative AI off. So we've got options on or off. We can also see how this AI processing is going to happen. Is it going to happen in the cloud or the device? Now, if you don't have at least 24 RAM, then this will not work, okay, on your device. So I typically leave it on the cloud. Up here by default, sample all layers is going to be not selected, okay? And so if we look over here, we can see that we only have one layer anyhow. Remove after each stroke is the default is check marked. Okay, I typically leave this off, but I turned it back on for you guys because by default it should be check marked. Creating a new layer is also not checked. So everything we do for the wires is going to be destructive, meaning that we won't be able to undo it once we have saved it and closed this out. So if I wanted it to be non-destructive, I might want to create this on separate layers. Any of our removal, it would actually happen on a separate layer. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to click on the remove tool. We're going to go find distractions, and the first thing in the book they want us to do is the wires and cables. So we are going to click on remove. It's going to do it destructively directly on this layer. It's not going to create a new layer. And we take a look at it. I'm going to hold my Z key down and zoom in on this a little bit for you. And I can see up here that there's a little bit of problem with when they remove the wires. The wire removal looks fantastic, but it left some inconsistencies up here in the horizon. So we're going to use the remove tool to fix those. To do that, again, verify you're still on the remove tool and make your brush size about 45. If you want to increase or decrease your brush size, you can use the left and right bracket on your keyboard. Okay, once you have hit enter. If I want to make this smaller, if I hit the left bracket, it'll go by 5 point increments, it'll go up and down. Okay, so I do want it to be on 45, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, remove after each stroke is check marked. So if I go up here and I just want to do maybe this little area, because I find that removing and doing little areas a lot of times it gives you a better result. Not always, but usually. So I just want to do that little point. Well, notice it rendered it very quickly because it's going to render it after each stroke. If you want to do just maybe like this section, let go, and then do this section, you may want to uncheck mark that so that you're not constantly waiting for it to render, okay? That's how I like to work. That is going to be strictly up to how fast your computer is, how fast your internet is, etc. The other thing we want to remove is this, god-awful pole here, okay? Because that's part of the electric grid. So I'm going to go ahead and do this as well. I'm going to highlight all of this. And then to remove it, I'm going to hit the check mark. Now this might take a little bit longer than it did for the first one because it has a lot more to render. So it is going to take a few minutes or a few seconds, and it's going to remove that. I think that looks pretty fantastic. Okay, the only thing that maybe I could even go through here and maybe make my brush a little bit smaller, maybe zoom in a little bit more, because this might bother me. I feel like right here it looks a little like it doesn't flow very well. So I could go in here and, I could get very, very detailed with this. Okay, oop, that even looks better. But this is bookwork. So for bookwork, I want you to keep in mind, I'm not going to be super picky, but I do expect the work that is supposed to be completed and accomplished inside of the lesson, I do expect that to be reflected in your end result. It doesn't have to look exactly like it, but it should be close, okay? Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to remove these two people. Okay, that's what we want to remove. This new version I have found, even compared to the book, is going to really be very sensitive to certain things. So what we're going to do is we are going to make sure we're on the remove tool. We're going to click on find distractions, and we're going to find people. So we're going to hit find, okay? And what we will see, because of the way I am zoomed, we have some places up here that we don't see. I don't see people unless I zoom way in, and I may or may not see people, but it's picking it up as people out there. So what I want to do is I want to deselect these two sections, but I want to keep this lady and this lady. So I also want to deselect these two ladies. They're friends and they're on the trip. They don't know these two gentlemen. So maybe I need to go ahead and go up here to the top. I'm currently on add to selection. So that means if I hit this, and I click and drag, it's going to add a area or selection. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to undo Control Z. But I want to subtract. So I'm going to hit the subtraction, Your brush size is probably on 45. I am going to hit the down arrow and I'm going to use my slider to change it to 45. Okay, or I'm sorry, 60. So you need to change it to around 60. Then I'm going to go in here, because I'm on minus, it's going to allow me to remove these selections. I don't really care about all this out here. What I do care about is getting rid of these two gentlemen. So I'm going to leave those magenta, and then I'm going to, highlight, maybe this is my friend. You can get really detailed in here. Normally you could zoom in and stuff. This is bookwork, so we're getting mostly correct. Okay, so I do want to, again, keep her arm, keep this, and then I want to make sure that I don't get rid of her as well. So I'm going to go over here. Make sure you don't forget about the shadow here, and make sure everything is gone. Okay. And then if you accidentally got a little bit of something here, you can always go up and add to selections. So go up here and maybe add it in there a little bit. And next thing I'm going to do is check mark that and hope that it removes those two gentlemen. Now again, I was on remove after each stroke, so keep that in mind. So this is going to take a little bit more time to render. And there we go. And that looks pretty darn good. So I'm pretty happy with the way this came out. If you've seen something that you want to change, you could go in here. If you're like, oh, you know what? I don't like that rock. I could go in here and I could simply highlight that rock. And it would remove that rock. Okay, just keep in mind, that if there's a couple other things that you're like, oh, I want to remove that, you can go through here. Maybe you don't like this little, I don't know, it looks like a little piece of wood. You could go in here and remove it just to practice a little bit. And again, don't forget to check mark it. Okay. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and turn this in. So we need to save it first. So I'm going to hold my control key down and hit S, which saves it. Or we could have gone up here to File and hit Save. So now that PSD is saved. But to turn this into Dropbox, please do not forget, I need this turned in as a PDF. Okay. The reason is it allows me to see it easier in Pilot. I can still download it and see the actual layers. Okay. So sometimes I need to do that. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I quickly go through, especially on bookwork, not usually on projects, but on bookwork. And I just simply make sure that, that the items did get accomplished. So in here, we're going to go to File and I'm going to hit Save As. So when we save this as a PDF, we are going to go in here and click on PDF, Photoshop PDF, under the format. We are going to hit Save. It may come up and say settings you choose to save Adobe PDF dialog can override your current settings in the Save As dialog box. I'm going to say don't show again. I'm going to say okay. Acrobat 5 is absolutely fine. Please, this is what's important. Make sure preserve Photoshop editing capabilities is checkmarked. Why? Because there are many a times, probably half the people I'm like, oh, there's something doesn't look right, and I just want to look at your layers. In this case, we only have one layer. I realize that, but I still want you to make sure that that is checkmarked just for consistency purposes. Make sure Optimize for Fast Web Preview is also checkmarked. Then we're going to go ahead and hit Save PDF. Do you want to continue? I'm going to checkmark this and I'm going to say yes. Okay, that will be the version. Notice up here, this changed as well. O2 remove underscore working.pdf is the one that I need you guys to submit into the Dropbox.